Hi guys, Saint here, and I wanted to talk to you guys about the new B patch that they released. I think it's actually a very high skill expression patch because there's a lot of flexibility in the builds you can play. So we're just gonna kind of go over a few of the builds and the different variations that you can do with them, and then kind of also how to get there. I think the first build we should talk about is the Ashe variant, which is I think the one that kind of popped up that I think a lot of people are having trouble playing. The core of this build is basically you just have Ashe and you have one porcelain unit. And then usually I'll play Nautilus and you either run. So basically, the core is just these units like Ashe and Amumu. And then you can either run the Faded variant or you can run the Mythic variant. So I'll show the two variants and how to play them. The Mythic variant usually you play Kog'Maw as a sniper and you have Nautilus. And then you play just a third Mythic unit, which can be Lilia or it can be way later. So this will be your core, when you do your roll down, and then you can play 4 porcelain if you hit. Obviously, Lysandra should be put into almost every single build. Lysandra's broken is extremely broken. So I'll show you what the full fleshed out version would look like. It would look something like this, where you have 4 porcelain, you have 3 mythic, and then you'd run Annie for an invoker. Where's Annie at? So this is what the full version looks like. You'd be looking like this. And then you can put, almost always you put Rage Blade on Ashe. And then you need a damage item. I really like Death Blade or, probably Death Blade, Last Whisper is probably the best items, or IE Last Whisper. Just whatever 80 items you can get. So we'll just throw this on here and then we'll do Last Whisper. Which is, Kimchi, can you stop? So do Last Whisper. And then you put your tank items on either Nautilus or Annie. So you just put Adaptive, and then double stone plate or something like that, or redemption, and then I don't know, stone plate, something like that. And then usually you don't itemize a Mumu, you itemize Nautilus or Annie in this comp. Whatever you 2-star first, you itemize these units, and then you will put your other items on Lilia or Lysandra. And then if you find Hui, you drop Lilia for Hui, and then you put in Hui, which would something like this. So just swap that out. Now, if you're curious about Lily items, it's usually Archangels, 1-mana item, and then just whatever other item, a Shiv or Dashers, pretty much anything you can get for the third item. It'll look something like this. So this is the Mythic variant, and then the other variant you can play is you play more. You make a Philios the sniper. Where's he at? You play a Philios, and then you play Syndra as the secondary carry. Where's Syndra at? Syndra, and then you play Set, and you do more of a 4 Warden variant. So you have Set, and then you don't play Annie, and you play just any Warden you can get. It can be, it doesn't really matter. It can be literally any Warden. It can be Gnar. It could be where are the Wardens? Am I blind? Okay, it can be literally any Warden. It can be Alawi. Yeah, usually it's Alawi. So that'll give you 4 Warden, 4 Arcanist, 4 Porcelain. And then obviously you just put any mana items you can get onto your Syndra. Blue buff Archangels is probably the best, or any other, or Death Cap, just anything you can do. And then it'll look something kind of like this. And then you link Syndra and Set, and it's kind of like this. And if you obviously if you don't have the 4 porcelain, don't worry about it. You can just play even more. You can play more frontline units, or you can play whatever. You can throw a random, you play a Zir Annie. You can just throw whatever 5 and 4 costs you find in there. Don't worry about the 4 porcelain that much until later into the game. So this is the variant you're gonna play of this if you play the Faded version. And then the other popular comps that you're gonna be playing are what's another one? I think 7 Mythic is actually really good on this patch if you have the +1. So I mean, it's not really that complicated to play this build because it's pretty much you're just plugging in as many Mythics as you can possibly get your hands on. It's going to look probably something a little like this, where you have you have your Kog'Maw for your Invoker, and then you have Azir running around in here, and you have Ornn, and then you have Annie, and then Annie. So usually you put the Mythic Spat on Annie or Ornn. Annie with Mythic Spat is really good because her ability scales off of health. And then the itemization you're going to be looking for is probably something this is BIS, but don't worry about it. It takes way too many tiers. Whether you have Sojourn or Blue buff, doesn't matter. I think the most important thing is that you have Archangels. And then you usually kill, you'll have an extra bow laying around, which can be Nashor's or Shiv or something. The third item doesn't really matter that much. Just make sure you have Archangels. Archangels in 1 mana generation item. It can be Sojourn, Blue buff. It can even be adaptive. Just don't worry about it. But like, don't tunnel. Like this build requires so many tiers. Like I think going for blue buff is a little bit much, you know. So like blue buff is best, but it takes way too many tiers, so don't worry about it. And then Hui, obviously, you're just gonna put Sojin, Morello, and then like one more item. It can be like Shiv, Guard Breaker, anything. And then Nautilus' best items. I mean, if you put Adaptive on him, he'll cast a bunch of times. So like we said, this build takes a lot of tiers, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. And then usually Ornn will feed him the other item. And same thing with Annie. She kind of uses the same item. So it looks something like this. And then when you level up, you can put Lysandra in, and that'll give you Sork. And then you can like put her off on the side somewhere like this. So if you, I like to play this build if I have Mythic +1. I think without Mythic +1, it's way weaker because you end up having to play 5 Mythic, which is it's not terrible. So you drop this, and then you play like Lysandra. You just play 5 Mythic, which is like okay too, right? Like that build is okay too. But I feel like with 7 Mythic and you get the Mythic +1, it's just way more powerful. And then the other, the last two builds we're going to talk about, we'll talk about Heavenly Kayn, which kind of, I don't know if it's like super new in the meta, but it kind of popped up a little bit more with this. And it's kind of like the Yone build from before, except now you're relying way more on Kayn to actually do like a lot of the heavy lifting. And then you put Lee Sin in, and then you have Morgana. So Morgana gives Sage, and then you can put Diana. You can either put Diana for 3 Sage, or you can put Soraka in for more Heavenly. But this is like what the general board looks like. And in my opinion, BIS Kayn is like BT, Edge and Knight, and then you can either do Sterix, Last Whisper, you can do like anything like that. I think like Last Whisper is like good too. You can just basically as long as you have Lifesteal, and then you have like one defensive item, which can be Sterix, Edge and Knight, Titans, anything like that, and then you need a damage item. I like Last Whisper because, you know, Shred, a lot of time you're putting Kayn in the center and you want to like burn through the tanks ASAP. And then Lee Sin is just like whatever extra items you have, and then you put Morello onto your list, or onto your Morgana, and then it looks something like this. And then the last build we're going to talk about is a build that, I mean, is still like super popular, and I think this is probably the best way to play this variant, since especially because they they nerfed a lot of the Ink Shadow items. So I think tunneling on Ink Shadow is like not really that great anymore. And then you put Galio. I think this variant is the best because Silas is a demon, and Lysandra is really popular in the meta right now. So if you're kind of relying on if you're kind of like, Galio can soak a Lysandra ultimate, and he won't be hit by the Lysandra. Like he won't get potted, so he's immune to it when he's in his ultimate. So I think that's like really that's like a really powerful thing to have. And then you play Riven. Where's Riven at? Riven. And then you have Riven. And then you have the Kale, and you position like this, and then you put Teemo. Always run 4 Trickshot when you play this variant, otherwise you don't do any damage. Tito. And you put Tito over here. You have this, and then look something like this. And then at 9 you can put Udyr in. So it's like, this is the level 8 version. It's 4 Trickshot, 4 Bruiser almost always. And then Udyr, you're going to put it at 9 because that gives you a Ink Shadow item. And itemization, I think, is like less, like, I don't like Sojin on Kaisa now. You don't do enough damage. So it's, the BIS is probably like IE Last Whisper Deathblade, I would say, something like that. And then you can put like red buff on her, and then, or you can put Morello on Teemo. Just make sure you have anti-heal, IE Deathblade, and then Last Whisper, and then tank items, like pretty much all the stuff you'd want. I mean, the normal Galio items, like with Stoneplate, Stoneplate Redemption is probably like the best, because like he's healing when he's ultimating, wherever Redemption is. And then I actually really like itemizing Silas a lot in this version. I think the best Silas items are probably like Spark, BT, and then probably Crown Guard, or you can do like double Crown Guard BT. Just anything that gives them a little bit of AP and a little bit of tankiness, but this is probably the BIS. Silas is actually like really, really powerful in this comp, so don't overlook him and like itemizing him. But those are like in my opinion, there's like a couple little niche other builds you can do, like little reroll builds you can do. But I think these are the most popular builds in the meta, and like how to get into them. I also generally don't really like playing this build unless I like run it out of Fortune or you have a lot of econ, so because it requires, you know, a lot of 4 costs and legendaries. But yeah, that's pretty much the meta in a nutshell. I think combat augments are really important in this meta as well. I think you should always take like 1 econ augment at the beginning, and then you can take all your combat augments on like your 2nd and 3rd augment. So I hope this helped you guys out, and good luck in your games, and have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.